So let's go through Genesis 4, Cain and Abel. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect upon Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had no respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore whoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bare Enoch. And he built a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methusael, and Methusael begat Lamech, and Lamech took unto him two wives. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Adah bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handled the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech. For I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God, said she, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him also, there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. All right, so let's go back through this. So just to start, it shows here Eve gave birth to Cain, and when she did, she said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And her reaction there, it makes me feel like this is probably a reaction to, well, this is the first human ever born. And also, God made a promise earlier that through man, he was going to destroy Satan. And let's just go back to that. So in the previous chapter here, in Genesis 3:15, when God is putting the curses on the serpent, it says here that I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So there it shows that the Messiah in this case, the one that's going to destroy Satan, is his heel. It's going to be a male, and it's going to be the seed of the woman. So she may have just been assuming, hey, I got this man. I just gave birth to this man, and he's going to be the one that's going to destroy Satan in this case. I don't know. I'm sure she wasn't thinking this was going to be something thousands of years in the future that was going to take place. But hey, it may be within my lifetime. I'm going to see the destruction of the serpent from this man, this seed that she was promised. But of course, this was referring to Jesus, and it is going to be thousands of years. I don't know if that was the reason that she reacted the way she did when she had Cain, but could be. So then it goes into when Cain and Abel brought their offerings to God, and how God had respect for Abel's offering but did not have respect for Cain's. A lot of people like to say, oh, Cain is jealous of Abel. So you need to be careful when using the word jealous, especially in the Bible here when you're referring to biblical characters, because people usually say jealous in a way that means it's bad. Later on in the Bible, God talks about himself being jealous and also provoking the Israelites to jealousy. And it's not in a negative sense. It's in a positive sense, a positive jealousy. So jealousy would refer to something where you have or you should have possession of something, but somebody else has it, and you're jealous of them because they have what you should have. So let's say somebody like your wife is cheating on you, so you would be jealous because somebody else is getting what you should be getting, and that would be jealousy, and it's not bad. And then there's envy, which is what's going on here. This is envy, and envy is definitely bad. So you're wanting something that somebody else has that's theirs, but you want it. You want to take it for yourself, or you just desire it. So that's the difference between jealousy and envy. What you see going on here is not jealousy, it's envy. So Cain is envious of what Abel has, or what Abel is getting from God. God is not entitled to give Cain respect. So when Cain sees Abel getting respect, that's Abel's respect that he's getting, but Cain wants it, so he's envious of something that's not his, but he wants it. Now, Cain didn't do anything wrong with his offering from what it says here, and I'm sure Cain worked really hard to get that little bit that he did from the land, because he was working the land, and the land's cursed. So it's not easy to farm and get the fruits of the ground. So I'm sure Cain was like, I worked hard for this, and I didn't get any respect. Now, if you're a parent, you completely understand. You've seen the reaction if you got multiple kids. You've seen it before, where you praise one of the kids for something, and the other kid is mad. They're mad that their brother got praised, but they didn't. It's not necessarily that the other kid did anything wrong. It's just that you're praising this other kid. You're praising this one kid of yours, and they see that, and they're like, I want praise. I want this. This is mine. When no, I can give praise to this kid without giving it to you. I mean, it's fine. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just this child did something that deserves praise, and I gave them praise. Or if you see them sometimes you'll see it at a Christmas party, not Christmas party, birthday party, where the one kid is getting all the presents, and then some it's going to happen, like one of these other kids are going to start throwing a fit because they don't get anything. it just it gets it gets messed up. So that is envy at work, and it's doing its damage. So it is in the heart of Cain. So Cain's offering wasn't bad, but God can have a preference on what things he likes. You need to let God have this preference. It's God. He can prefer the offering that Abel made over the one that Cain made. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with Cain's offering. It just means that God preferred the one that Abel had. He liked it more. So there's things that you like more than others. This this offering to God from Abel, he liked it. He preferred it over Cain's. A lot of people like to say it's because of Cain's heart that his offering wasn't acceptable or respected, or it's because of Cain's attitude, or because it wasn't the first fruits or something like that. But it doesn't say that. It just says that he just had no respect for it. God just didn't like it. So you need to not add those things to this and try to come up with a scenario that's not there. It may just be that God liked Abel's more. It's food. So this is a food offering, and it's hard to tell what the context is behind why they're giving God this, because you don't have the sacrificial standard set up like with the later on with the Jews, and it's complicated to know why they're doing this, but it kind of gives me an impression they're just giving God an offering because they feel like that's what they need to be doing. It may be God set a standard. I don't know. He doesn't explain, but it makes me also wonder. Like, there's times when God comes down in physical form and eats, and you see that with Abraham later on. So it could be in this case, God is literally there with them, and they're bringing food to God, and He's eating it, which would be what we consider in the Old Testament here. This was probably Jesus physically showing up in this place in the Bible. So it's possible God was physically there eating, and he just enjoyed Abel's food and did not enjoy Cain's. He can have a preferred palate as far as what he likes and doesn't like. Don't need to look into it too much. And it's not hard to see where this could spiral out of control real quick if you have kids and you've seen this reaction before. So you got one that's mad. He's just mad. He's wroth. He is upset that his brother got accepted. His offering was accepted and Cain's wasn't. It hurt his feelings really bad. And then the evil part kind of starts to sink in. He's envious of what his brother got, and then plots to kill him, and he does kill him. So I wanted to point out how God describes sin in this context, and it said, "Sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire." So sin desires Cain, and it also describes that same it describes the desire that the wife has for the husband, the same as this right here. It's the same word. I forget what it's called. Hey, Matt, I got a question.
What's on your mind?
So in Genesis 3 and Genesis 4, God talks about the desire of the woman for the husband and the desire of sin for Cain, and it's the same word. What word is it?
Good question. The word you're referring to is the sukkah in Hebrew. It's used in Genesis 3:16 and Genesis 4:7 to describe the desire of the woman for her husband and the desire of sin to master Cain, respectively.
Correct. So it's spelled Teshukah. Teshuka. All right. So basically, this kind of emphasizes how this desire is negative, and how when God was talking about Eve's desire for her husband, it's to master over him, to rule over him, and how it's negatively, and how here sin, its desires for Cain to rule over him, but Cain needs to rule over it. But he didn't. He got taken over with envy, and it ruled over him. It is no surprise that families are as jacked up as they are, Christian or not. I mean, this first family here, the very first family, was met with a brother killing another brother. So it is not surprising at all that every single family's got some issues. We're all going to have issues. This is the very first family did. It should be no surprise to us when crazy things happen within other families or your own. When you see here the very first family, murder. It's a mess. It's a mess. This world's a mess. So you get some imagery here of the blood also crying out to God, and later on God talks about the life is in the blood of the animals, and that's why you shouldn't eat it. Later, when he brings animals as a acceptable food source, God curses the ground even more. Whenever Cain is going to try to work it, nothing's going to be fruitful for him, and this is his punishment. What's interesting is it didn't lead to death either. Like his punishment wasn't the death sentence. He was actually protected from the death sentence. So God had mercy on Cain, and instead of just, ending his life right there, he allowed Cain to live, and then actually protected Cain from being killed by the mark. But some people have some theories about that, whether or not he was murdered later. But I don't want to get into that because it doesn't make any sense to me when I listen to some of those. So he's a fugitive. He goes away from there, and Cain really, I wouldn't say overreacts by the punishment, because his punishment could have been so much worse. At this point, I would have thought he should have just been thankful that he wasn't put to death right there for what he did. But instead, he's just like, oh my goodness, this punishment is too much for me. You're driving me out from the land. So this was all that Cain knew, which was working the land, from what I understand. He may have knew how to take care of animals, but this was pretty severe because that was his life, the working the land, and God made that unfruitful for him. And just think of how messed up this would be. I mean, how this would mess you up, being Adam and Eve at this point, and you may be under the feeling that, hey, we're going to have this Messiah figure child soon, and we'll be able to see him defeat Satan, or defeat the serpent. But now this happens, and we lose 2 of our kids, the first 2. So the oldest is now cast away because of what he did, and the next one is dead. So the first 2 kids are gone, and Adam, any help that he had at that point with working the land and taking care of animals, gone. That would have been devastating. Plus the emotional burden of seeing death, human death, for the first time, and they haven't even experienced death firsthand of humans at this point until now, and for it to be such a evil act that brought it about, it wasn't an accident. This was just a purposeful murder out of envy. Ugh, what a mess! It started off on the wrong foot and has been tripping over itself ever since. But then, after Jesus, things are getting better. This world is on its way to the peace that God has said He would bring through His Word, and the kingdom is growing. So God reassures that Cain's not going to be killed, even though he did kill, or at least he's going to have a mark so that somebody knows they shouldn't kill him. So one thing that's interesting here is it says that Cain went out from the presence of the Lord. What was that presence? How, like, even though Adam and Eve sinned, they were still in very close relationship with God at that point. As far as I'm assuming they were, even though they were cast out, it just seemed that they were still within God's presence. But now Cain is not. So whatever communication, I'm assuming at this point, with God has ceased with Cain. It would be interesting to know, like, how much access they actually had to God, how much he was still interacting with them at this point. It would be interesting. But he went out to east of Eden, so the land of Nod. So I'm not sure if that. So he's outside of Eden at this point. So he's east of Eden, and there is some significance to the direction as far as east being labeled. And I don't want to go into that too much because I haven't dug into it. So it goes into the family tree of Cain. It's just highlighting certain people, but it's really hard to know exactly how many kids that he had and how old he was when he had them. It really doesn't tell you all of them. It's just kind of highlighting here and there people and their names. Then we get all the way down to Lamech. So Lamech had 2 wives instead of just one. And at this point, it's hard to know if they would have realized that was wrong at that point, but I assume they did, and that's why it's kind of highlighted that he had multiple wives. That this is we're kind of going another bad direction here by having more than one wife. And he's talking to his wives about how he's slain somebody for wounding him or hurting him. It doesn't say how he was wounded or hurt. Was this physical, or did he just get his feelings hurt? Because you see now people will talk about, oh, this person said this and therefore they deserve death because of it. I don't know if he's taken it that far. Like, the people will say words are violence, as far as, so in that turn they can justify attacking somebody that just says something they don't like, and that's not the case. So I don't know if he's just overblowing this wounding. It wasn't an actual physical one, just he was upset. It could be self-defense, I guess. It may be revenge. It may be self-defense, revenge, we don't know. Or maybe he just completely overreacted to something that this guy was saying to him. It's hard to tell. We don't know. So he thinks that the punishment on a person that murders him would be higher for whatever reason, 70 and sevenfold instead of just sevenfold. And then it kind of ends on a hopeful note here. Adam and Eve have another child, and it's a male, and it's Seth. And something that I think is interesting here at the end, it says, then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. So I used to always think that this was people calling upon God in praise. But then after reading on it, it seems like people are really noticed for calling upon God when there's suffering. So I don't know if the suffering started to become extremely bad at this point with sin, and things are not starting off good. So it makes me kind of wonder if this is people calling upon the name of the Lord in anguish, like, oh, things are not good. This is not. We are suffering, and they're calling upon God, like, help us, save us. We need things to. We're hurting here. So it's hard to tell. I looked into it a little bit, not a whole lot, but just to give you some thoughts about what I think could be happening. So that's it for today.